Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, Labour has launched an appeal against a legal ruling which gave more than 125,000 new members the right to vote in the leadership election. This, despite calls from Jeremy Corbyn's allies and union leaders not to. The whole contest has now been thrown into chaos after a High Court judge backed a test case by 5 supporters who'd accused the party of unlawfully freezing them out. The decision was a boost for Jeremy Corbyn, but a giant headache for the party's ruling NEC, as Kieran Jenkins reports.
Owen Smith found a smile from somewhere, but his efforts to dislodge Jeremy Corbyn possibly got that bit harder today. The numbers voting in this contest just got even bigger. A judge overturned the decision of Labour's ruling executive to deny party members of less than 6 months a vote. Victory for 5 Labour members who took it to court, and the 130,000 or so in the same predicament.
This is not about the impact on the leadership election. I have no idea which way my clients will vote. It's about their right to vote. And I'm proud to be part of a country, a court system, a democracy which takes the right to vote so very seriously.
Well, the judge has just said pretty decisively that Labour's ruling executive had no right to disenfranchise a quarter of the party's membership. They'll now be frantically trying to work out just how many members have a right to vote in this contest now. And if you're Owen Smith, you'll be wondering, well, how many of those, realistically, will be voting for me? So is it now impossible, he was asked, for him to win?
No, I don't think it's impossible at all. I think we've got to, Jeremy and I, continue doing what we're doing, putting out our case, laying out our case for the members. I'm pleased that we've got so many people voting in this election. It's a brilliant democratic exercise by the Labour Party, and we just need to get on with it and get through to the end of this process and lay out our stalls.
Well, it's good news that all party members will have a chance to vote, because this is a democratic party, it's an open party, and this is an open and democratic election, and I look forward to it.
Christine, who's a fitness instructor, was one of the 5 new members who defeated the Labour Party today.
Your vote is your voice. So to have that kind of voice taken away and say that it doesn't count just because you signed up on a particular date is completely unfair. It's undemocratic. It was very clear on the website when you signed up that you would be able to vote.
Labour won't say how many of the new members paid £25, so they could vote anyway as a registered supporter. The party may now have to fork out upwards of £3 million in refunds and legal costs. But this Owen Smith supporting MP believes denying newer members the vote was absolutely the right thing to do. So you're not a happy man today?
I'm not happy that people have gone through the legal system in order to determine how the Labour Party should operate internally. I think the Labour Party itself should determine its own rules and should be able to enforce those rules. But apparently, people who are from far left groups or whatever can go to the so-called bourgeois courts and take legal action, and that then throws the whole process into chaos.
And it's getting more chaotic still. Labour's ruling executive are appealing, with a hearing set for 2 days' time. That national executive, though, is about to be ripped up. Corbyn supporters have tonight won all 6 member-elected seats. If he wins again, this time he'll have far greater control.
Kieran Jenkins reporting there. Well, in Westminster now is the Shadow Chancellor, John McDonnell. Mr McDonnell, as a point of principle, do you feel that political parties should have the ability to set a minimum length of membership for taking part in these things?
I think if they do, when someone joins, that should be explained to them. What happened here is that people joined the Labour Party and they were told very clearly when they joined that they would have the right to vote in the leadership election. And that was construed by the courts today as properly as a contract. And the decision in the courts was extremely clear, and that's why I'm so disappointed that the Labour headquarters are now appealing. I don't understand their reasoning. We're a democratic party. We should allow our members to vote in this important election.
Well, one of the people who wants to vote in the election, a Labour Party member, in that piece, I don't know whether you heard it, said the Labour Party should be able to determine its own rules, and that's what your NEC is for, isn't it?
Well, it has determined its rules through the Labour Party conference. And the Labour Party conference made it exactly clear what the procedures were, and the court upheld them against a decision by the NEC, or elements of the procedure committee of the NEC today. Now we're down to 6 members of a procedure committee taking the decision on the appeal. The court upheld the right of individual members. And look, when these members joined, when on our website, in the paperwork they received, it said very clearly they would be able to vote for the leader of the Labour Party. To deny them that democratic right flies against all the traditions of our party, which has campaigned for democracy from its very existence.
What about the role of your own governing body, the NEC? Do you not stand by the rules that they apply if they don't suit you?
It's not a matter of whether it suits me or not, because we don't know which way these members are going to vote. No one knows that. We stand by the traditions of the Labour Party and principles.
The role of your own governing body.
Well, which is we are a democratic party. And clearly the court judgment today was saying that the NEC actually took a decision which was contrary to our own rules and contrary to the decisions of our Labour Party conference. That's our sovereign body. We democratically decided the procedures through our conference. The NEC took a wrong decision. We should abide by the court decision.
Now, you said earlier this is a deeply disappointing decision by a small clique of people behind closed doors who oppose Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. So what happens to that small clique of people now? Do you get rid of them? What about the role of the General Secretary, Ian McNicol? When will he have to go now?
We're a democratic party, and we elect our National Executive Committee members, just as we have done today. And party members will take into judgment the activities of those individual NEC members when they come to cast their votes for the National Executive Committee. But the real issue
here... But the point is, you've talked about a small clique who you think are opposed to Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. You've just won... Corbyn supporters have just won 6 seats on the NEC. What happens now to Ian McNicol? Can he stay in his job?
Well, he's the General Secretary of the Labour Party, and he continues on. The issue here is that 6 members of the Procedure Committee, most of whom have expressed a view against Jeremy Corbyn, for some reason have tried to deny in this appeal 130,000 members their democratic rights.
Very quickly, was Jeremy Corbyn right to give Shami Chakrabarti a peerage when he said he would nominate no one for a peerage?
Well, he took the view that many have taken now, that we now need to strengthen our position in the House of Lords. My view, the same as Jeremy, is that we should get rid of the House of Lords as it now constitutes itself and have a democratic House of Lords.
John McDonnell, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you.
The Jeremy Corbyn wing of the Labour Party have had a good day, entrenching their hold on the party. You might have heard about a High Court judge telling the party that it can't stop its recently signed up members from getting a chance to vote in the leadership election. That'll probably benefit Mr Corbyn. And there was a second boost in elections for the National Executive Committee. Corbyn supporters took a little more control. Here's Secunda Kamani.
Are you interested in voting against Jeremy Corbyn?
Just a few weeks ago, the rival factions of Labour spent 48 hours battling on the streets, encouraging voters to pay a one-off fee for a vote in the leadership race.
To support the Labour Party, support Jeremy Corbyn.
They thought it was too late for people to become new members of the party and get a vote that way. But today's court decision changes that. Tonight, Jeremy Corbyn welcomed the ruling that allows thousands of members who joined Labour after the 12th of January to take part in the ballot.
From the judgment that was given today, the judge seemed very clear that his decision was that all members of the party should have a right to vote in the leadership contest. Surely that has to be the right decision.
The Labour Party currently has around a whopping 500,000 official members, but around 130,000 of them joined within the last 6 months. The NEC had ruled that they wouldn't get a vote in the leadership contest. The only way they could would be if they paid an extra £25 to become registered supporters. But now those 130,000 are back in, and Labour looks likely to have to repay the £25 fees any of them paid to become registered supporters.
The case for me and for others was all about fairness and equality and inclusion in the political process, unfairness being the main reason. It seemed very perverse that the Labour Party should manipulate the rules to exclude nearly a quarter of its membership, yet at the same time offer memberships to those who could afford to pay the £25.
Current polling puts Corbyn ahead in the race. But whilst most agree the majority of more recent members back him, it's not clear just how significant allowing them to vote will be.
Among the selectorate, this group of people who are actually voting in the leadership election, it appears from our polling at the moment that Jeremy Corbyn is in prime position. But having said that, we don't really know for sure what this new group will bring to the voting. It's likely, my sense is that they'll probably favour Jeremy Corbyn, but what we also don't know is how many of them have already signed up subsequently as £25 members. So there's a lot of uncertainty around that, but also a lot could still change as Owen Smith becomes better known.
It was at a closely split NEC meeting last month that the decision was taken to bar recent party members from voting. But the NEC is changing. Results in its election out tonight showed victories for Corbyn supporters. Nevertheless, the current NEC has decided to appeal against today's court ruling. The Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell described that as a deeply disappointing decision by a small clique of people behind closed doors.
I don't think it's right for John or I to interfere in the NEC, the ruling body of the Labour Party. It's for them now to choose what they're going to do, whether they're going to appeal this ruling or not. I'm just going to, whatever the rules are, I'm just going to play by them and continue to make my case.
So some people see the NEC decision as effectively a deliberate attempt to disenfranchise Corbyn supporters.
We don't know that that's the case, because there were certainly, I knew lots of moderates were signing up to vote against Corbyn as well, so it cuts both ways. If the party has the right to appeal, then surely it should stand by the considered decision and the democratic decision that its ruling body took.
But that, if there's an appeal process, that could delay the whole leadership contest.
Well, no,
because in September.
People are saying that the appeal process would be dealt with. It could be in court as early as Thursday.
Owen Smith has called for an extension of the leadership contest, but the whole process is getting rather messy. The more these internal rifts are played out in public, the harder it will be for the party to eventually come together, and the less time they have to focus on holding the new Conservative government to account.
Secunda Kamani there. Well, let's discuss today's events now with Claudia Webb, who was today elected to Labour's NEC. She supports Jeremy Corbyn. And also with us are the columnist and former advisor to Tony Blair, John McTernan, and the journalist and author Rachel Shabby. If I can start with you, if I may, Claudia. Look, it's been posited as a kind of the left, the hard left, getting more of a grip on the party, today's NEC election. Is that how you see it?
Well, no, what I see is that what we've got now is an opportunity to have a powerful voice for ordinary party members. I've been elected to represent the voice of ordinary party members, the constituency Labour parties around the country, and ensure that ordinary party members get a full say in the whole running and working of the Labour Party. And it's about enabling that voice and that influence to be heard, to be recognised and to be supported.
Right. But how would you like the NEC to change? I mean, what do you think of the way the NEC has been operating? How would you
Well, of course, I mean, if I was on the NEC at the time, it was making decisions that related to the voice of ordinary party members, the whole notion that we've had where members have not been able to, for example, vote in the forthcoming leadership election because of the ruling of the NEC. Clearly, I would not be voting that way, or I would not be directing the National Executive Committee to diminish the voice of ordinary party members. It's really important that of those 33 members that rule the Labour Party, that the voice of ordinary party members really has much more of a say, because you have to recognise that things have changed since Jeremy Corbyn became leader. There's been a huge increase in party membership. We're now at 500,000, 500,000 members, probably the largest party in the UK, if not Western Europe. That voice, therefore, that increase in voice of the members needs to really come through and be reflected.
Claudia, thank you very much. Let's turn to the other two of you, if I might. John, isn't it pretty obvious now that your wing of the party has lost control of the steering wheel? The other side have pushed you out of the way. They've got the steering wheel. They're going to drive the car in the direction they want. And it's very hard to see how you're going to get it back, at least for a couple of decades, isn't it?
Look, people who want to see a Labour government, people like me who support Clause 1 of the Labour Party, about being a parliamentary party that wins power. Yeah, today's a great setback for us. The NEC elections are disastrous, as is the High Court ruling, and there's no doubt in my mind that a Jeremy Corbyn-led Labour Party, with the kind of focus it's got now, is not focused on electability, it's not focused on winning power, it's not focused on winning elections, and it may not take 2 decades, it's certainly going to take 10 years to take the Labour Party back to where it can be a presentable electoral party.
I mean, do you, Rachel, agree that it is basically, essentially, we've had two people wrestling over who's in control and it's resolved in favour of the left?
I think it's ridiculous to suggest that only one part of this equation is interested in electability. Of course, Jeremy Corbyn and his supporters want to win power.
But can I just ask you to answer the one I asked? Do you think you're in control now? The left is in control, and it's very hard for John McTernan to get control back.
What I see, if we're going to use this analogy of control and a steering wheel, it's like one side of the party, you know, taking hold of the steering wheel of the Labour Party and repeatedly slamming it into a wall. I mean, let's look at what's happened recently. You know, we've had mass resignations, and then the decision to have a leadership election, even though we've only just had one, and then saying that Jeremy Corbyn couldn't be on the ballot, and then saying that Labour Party members couldn't vote for him. And now we have a High Court ruling saying, actually, yes, those Labour Party members can vote, and the NEC response is to contest that using Labour Party membership money. So at what point are they going to say, hang on a minute, we're a democratic party, this is not a democratic process anymore?
I mean, the McDonnell quote, you know, says it's a small clique, John, a small clique behind closed doors who've openly expressed their opposition to Jeremy. I mean,
I'm not sure.
It is true, isn't it?
No, I'm not. I don't think people have been silent about their scepticism about McDonnell himself and about Jeremy Corbyn. There are people who are opposed to the tradition of the Labour Party that wishes to win elections. That's a perfectly decent tradition. They just shouldn't be in charge of the Labour Party. Jeremy Corbyn's poll ratings are some of the worst that any party leader's had. The Labour Party is 16 points behind the Tory Party. Really, if you're judging by results, his shadow cabinet are alienated. 80% of the parliamentary Labour Party have to work day in, day out with him, don't trust him, and the public don't want to vote for him. And that's before you even start to discuss about his IRA support for Ken Livingstone's anti-Semitism, all those things. It's like we've barely scratched the surface of what's wrong with the leadership.
This is the same discussion we've been having for the whole of the summer. I do want to just focus it aside. The John McDonnell quote, a small clique of people behind closed doors, couldn't we say that's the same of Momentum? I mean, you know, Claudia was a Momentum candidate. I mean, Rachel, isn't that exactly what one would say about the clique who've taken over the Labour Party, isn't it?
You know, I think that when you hear stuff like that, it just seems to be so disconnected from a fundamental change that has taken place in politics. Look at the number of people joining the Labour Party. 500,000, that's amazing. That's the biggest party in Europe. That is a signal of change. That's not a clique. That is people who have been disconnected from politics for decades and are now re-engaging, reinvigorated, and actually want to create change. That's not a clique, that's a movement.
How do you get to represent 500,000? Because it's basically been supported by Momentum, being on their ticket, and then you get the whole lot of vote.
I'm a Labour councillor. I've been a Labour member for over 30 years. I have been a long-standing Labour member. So when you look at the membership of the Labour Party, it is wide and it is diverse. It is reflective of British society.
Could you have been elected if you had not had Momentum saying, vote for Claudia? It's as simple as that. They said who to vote for, and you all got in,
I think what you saw was a vote for Jeremy Corbyn's ideas and policies and the step in the right direction. Members voted last year in an overwhelming way for Jeremy Corbyn, and that is what, in a sense, we're taking forward his ideas, but taking forward grassroots democracy, because that's what members chose to have.
Rachel, what is the plan as to how you win an election? Because you are behind in the polls. You do have the problem that the shadow cabinet doesn't trust your leader, and you do have the problem that you have not persuaded people like John McTernan that this is the man to run the party. Just tell us the plan for winning, for victory.
I mean, first of all, let's get this over with, because it's a bit ridiculous saying that the Labour Party's polling has fallen. It's a bit like derailing a train, wrecking it, and then saying, why can't the driver drive the train?
Saying, what is your plan? You can blame them. Now I'm asking, what is your plan for getting the party elected?
I'm only pointing out that the low polling...
OK, let's deal with the blame.
It's to do with being divided.
Let's put aside the blame.
OK, so you unite.
Now, what is your plan?
You unite.
That's not a plan, because it's not going to work.
And then you campaign, and then you campaign, and then you use your grassroots movement, 500,000 people, to canvass, to campaign, to go into communities, to talk to people, to persuade them of the Labour argument.
And John, that is the plan. Last word to you, because you're a part of that plan, because you basically have to unite for that plan to work.
Opposing Trident, leaving the country defenceless, having no plan for the economy, not having an answer on immigration or welfare, and on top of that, being a mate of Ken Livingstone with his anti-Semitic views, defending all that, there's no chance that's sellable on any doorstep in the country.
We'll leave it there. Thank you all very much indeed.